From 1943 to 1999, the El Toro Air Force Base in Southern California was home to the Marine Corps Aviation. In fact, in the post-World War II era, all U.S. presidents have landed here in Air Force One, so lots of history here. And speaking of history, the Nissan Motor Corporation has selected this site to celebrate its 80th anniversary. Over several weeks, they have invited automotive journalists from around the world to drive past, present, and future product, which is kind of cool. But I got two questions I want an answer for. One, why is Nissan bringing back the Datsun nameplate? And two, as if there's not enough nameplates out there to confuse your average consumer, why is Infiniti changing what they call their alphanumeric labels? Remember FX, G, and JX? Well, all Infiniti vehicles will now start with the prefix Q or QX. Why? But before we talk about that, let's check out this event which they are calling Nissan 360.
Nissan's a global company. We cover 92% of the segments worldwide. We launch one new car every 6 weeks. And so much more to the company than you'll see necessarily in each of the regions. So what we're trying to do every 4 years is bring the whole company somewhere and then bring the journalists and the investors over and basically give what we call this 360-degree view of Nissan Motor Company. You've got the Japanese taxi, you've got the New York taxi, you've got the strange Japanese vans, you've got the GTR, you've got the autonomous driving technology, and it allows our guests to somehow grasp the global picture of Nissan in a space of 3 days.
I think Canada is definitely a very, very different country from the rest of the Americas, and it's my ambition to really bring the right products and to adapt the right product to the right markets. There are many, many different regions also within Canada, and we're going to make sure that we address the requirements of the consumers in the different regions. My objective is really to respond to the market much better than potentially we did in the past.
I just think it's really great because what it does is it centralizes everything into one event, and it allows you to get a full and total perspective of where Nissan's going and how all of their strategies, all of their cars, all the technologies fits across all of the continents and across the globe.
In some cases, they're cars that we're never going to see. It's just interesting from a writer's point of view to actually get into them, and from the gearhead's point of view as well to drive these things. I got to drive a bus today. I've never driven a bus, dump trucks, things like that, the high-performance cars. But Nissan is actually using this as well to gauge what we think of vehicles. So it's a little bit of us looking at them, and it's a little bit of them looking at us.
So Nissan survived the name change, and now it is Infiniti's turn. I mean, here's a brand trying to get on the shopping list of premium buyers, and we've all gotten used to the FX and the G Coupe and G Sedan and the JX35 and so on. Well, that's all gone, out the window. Every new Infiniti vehicle will begin with either a Q or a QX.
There are not that many ways to manage nameplates in the car industry, and to go with that new nomenclature to make it easier for a consumer in the long term to understand it and to make it very consistent. So you get the Q line for the cars and the QX for the crossovers and SUVs.
With the launch of the Q50, which just is happening right now in Canada, which is the first under the new nomenclature, basically sets the stage for the future.
I really don't understand why. I tell people I'm old enough to remember when cars had real names, and half the time I don't even remember which numbers are which. You had the M, you had the F, you had all of these. They're just trying for cohesion, and I really don't think it's going to cause a lot of problems for consumers.
Now, some of us are old enough to remember when in North America, Nissan was simply known as Datsun. And then in 1986, Datsun was gone. All vehicles were called Nissan. Now, Nissan is bringing back Datsun, sort of.
They're bringing Datsun back. They're bringing it into what they call the high growth markets, places like India, China, Indonesia, and Russia. They're looking at buyers who, in some cases, have never owned a car before, and they're making this break with Nissan to bring back a brand that a lot of people know in markets that are new to vehicles.
I love the way you pronounce that in your Canadian speak, Datsun, right? Here in the U.S. we call it Datsun. Yeah, so I like that. And you guys talk pasta and Yahoo and all that kind of stuff, and Mazda, so I'm enjoying this quite a bit.
Could you answer the question?
Sure, yeah. They got a product here in this new Datsun that's going to really, address that market well. They got a good strategy, India, China. I mean, I can't see that missing for them.
Did you have to think twice about bringing Datsun back?
Oh, we thought more than twice, for sure. But you know what? What Datsun stood for all of those years ago was about high quality, low cost motoring. We had the name, we had the asset, but also what it stood for is essentially what we're trying to bring to these so-called emerging countries.
The car we have here is a car we have developed in India, for India, as the first car under the Datsun return. Go is a word which the Japanese language uses to count car. The car which won the Australian rally is called Fuji Go. It's a word which every country in the world recognizes as associated with movement, and we want to be the brand enabling social movement of its middle class.
It's exciting what they're doing with the Nissan line. I mean, some of those concepts that we saw inside, I thought that was a real strong product. I think it's going to do really well for them. I like the executive team here. I think that they've got something going on here, and I think that we're going to see a lot of really good things from them in the future.
The Nissan 360 event is continuing here in Southern California. Another step for this company as it hopes to gain an 8% global market share. Can it do it? Well, they did use a couple of words here that I have never heard at a corporate event: provocation and disruption, as they hope to shake up the status quo. Can they do it? Well, as someone once said, you may not be able to predict the future, but you can invent it. So stay tuned for more.